What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So, before I talk about Chris Bosh and congratulate him on going to the Hall of Fame, I just want to touch on the Tony Kukoc thing one last time, okay? Because I see there's still some people who are saying, they don't think that he's a Hall of Famer because of his NBA career. What you have to understand is that this man was inducted by the International Committee, okay? And you need to really research how the Hall of Fame works, okay? He was inducted by the International Committee because of his international career. His international career, not just NBA career, his international career. I'm gonna tell you something. When you actually look at his international career, he's one of the most decorated players to be inducted in the history of Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. When you look at his international career, the guy has fucking more medals and more awards than goddamn fucking George Washington, Ulysses S. Grant, General Patton, Colin Powell, Norman Schwarzkopf, you know what I'm saying? Teddy Roosevelt, fucking goddamn General Westmoreland, goddamn, uh, you, you know, uh, all these motherfuckers combined. So when you just talk about his NBA career, you're being very myopic, in my opinion, because he was nominated and selected because of what he accomplished as an international player. But if you want to talk about his NBA career, let me say this. He's one of the first international players ever, right? Drazen Petrovic, being one of the very first. And Drazen Petrovic was better. But Tony Kukoc was an OG. He came over and played in an NBA that was much more physical than the league he was acquired, that he was used to. He had to adjust to the physicality and the speed of the NBA, and he had to play a role. Okay, the role being that, hey, I'm coming off the bench and being the sixth man for this team. This is Michael Jordan's team, and Scottie Pippen's the number two. I'm the number three guy offensively. But I'm coming off the bench. So Kukoc basically was a sixth man to bring spark and energy off the bench. And he was essentially the point forward because they never really had a true point guard per se. So he was the point forward, coming off the bench of the second unit. And, he was a great passer. And, you know what I'm saying? If you watch Tony Kukoc, you could definitely see the skill set there. I don't know what some of you guys are talking about. Now, the only thing that Tony Kukoc had problems with is that he was not a great defensive player. But other than that, you know what I'm saying, he was an average rebounder for his size. He was a great scorer. And in today's NBA, if he was given a larger role, I definitely could see Tony Kukoc averaging something like 23 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7 or 8 assists a game, and everybody would call him one of the best players in the NBA because he would be on a team where his role would be different. But he played in a different NBA, and he played in one of the greatest defensive eras in the NBA. Remember, this guy was drafted in 1990, but didn't play until 1993, and played until 2006. And that was the greatest defensive era in the modern day NBA. So you can't take his numbers in that era with his role on that team. He was never the man on any of those teams. Whether you're talking Chicago Bulls or the Philadelphia 76ers, Atlanta Hawks, or Milwaukee Bucks. There was always some other guy who was the man offensively. But Tony Kukoc improved each and every one of those damn teams. And like I said before my other video, if you look at those Chicago Bulls teams and you go and look at each of those series, I especially recall in the finals, and in 1998 in the conference finals, Game 7. Without the impact of Tony Kukoc, the Bulls would have lost that Game 7 against the Pacers. Straight up. So if you think that he's not a Hall of Famer, fine. But I'm telling you, you're flat fucking wrong. Now let me go to Chris Bosh. Now Chris Bosh is another guy that was heavily maligned when he was playing, and he was, pretty much pegged for being soft, right? One of the biggest uh, offenders and proponents, I really should say, of that label was Skip Bayless. He even pretty much challenged his manhood, calling them Bosh Spites, right? But I noticed he never did that really as well, from what I can remember. I don't recall him doing that as egregiously or putting that label out there as egregiously with Kevin Love, who also similarly struggled in that third man role, playing alongside LeBron James. Okay? But Chris Bosh had to adjust. He lost a little weight, okay, because he was transitioning to being a stretch four. So he had to play a different role playing on that team. You have to totally alter your game. He was the man in Toronto. The last year he was there averaging 24 points and I think 11 rebounds. He was a 5-time All-Star in Toronto. When he left Toronto, I believe he was the all-time leader in points, rebounds, and block shots, or at least in assists, because it might have been Camby with block shots. But it might have been points, rebounds, and assists. I have to check that again. But definitely points and rebounds. He was the man. And people kind of think that he just came out of nowhere. But he was already an established all-star, perennial all-star in the NBA. He just didn't get a lot of coverage because he's playing with the Toronto Raptors, who were not a really good overall team. But he went to Toronto, he was part of that trade, and he grew into that role. It took a while. He had his struggles. Um, when he became a stretch 3 or 4, in some ways he was more of a stretch 3, with well, really, you know what? Now I think about it, sometimes he was a stretch 4, but in some ways he was a 3. He was a small forward, and he lost a little weight, and he wasn't as great at rebounding anymore. Not that he was a beast at rebounding from the get go, but some of that is because of positioning, and some of it was because, like I said, Chris Bosh lost a lot of weight. And when you lose a lot of muscle mass, it's hard to box out guys who are bigger and stronger than you. So that's what kills me about some of these fucking idiots like Skip Bayless, who averaged 0.1 points in his career, and Stephen A. Smith, who somehow thinks people have to prove things to him about basketball. You know what I'm saying? Guys who are established, skilled stars, they got to prove something to this TV personality about basketball. But Chris Bosh went on to win 2 NBA championships with the Miami Heat and appear in 4 consecutive NBA finals. Despite the fact that in the second half of his career he was a third wheel, and the fact that toward the last year or so he struggled with health problems that led to his retirement, the blood clots, which could have killed him. Dwayne Wade spoke about this on, I think it might have been NBA on TNT, but he talked about how one day he saw Chris Bosh looking normal, and then the very next day he could definitely look at Chris Bosh and tell that something was wrong. And then the next day, Chris Bosh is in the hospital in ICU with tubes up his nose, and nobody knowing what was wrong with him. But the guy had blood clots all over his body, and at the end, he had to retire because of that. He tried hard. He tried very, a violent effort to come back from these blood clots, but his career was over. And you know, but for his career, despite being a third wheel for the second half of his career, he still averaged over 19 points a game. He grabbed 8.5 rebounds. He dished out 2 assists per game. He shot 49% from the floor for his career. Even though he did not start off as an outside threat, he developed into becoming a dependable and dangerous 3-point shooter. Now, for his career, he shot over 33% from the floor from three. But in his latter years with Miami, he was in the middle to upper 30s. So he shot above the league average when it came to 3-point field goal percentage. So he became a dangerous stretch four and at times small. Well, really, you know what? Sometimes he was the three, and then sometimes LeBron James was playing the point. This is at that time the NBA was kind of transitioning into how we have now positionless basketball. It was transitioning into that back then when the Heat were doing their thing. That's why I kind of variate from calling him a stretch four to even a three. But he won Olympic gold in Beijing in 2008. You know what I'm saying? That was the Redeem team. And, you look at his resume, he was 11-time NBA All Star, All NBA second team in 2007, NBA All Rookie team in 2004. His number one is retired by the Miami Heat. He was the ACC Rookie of the Year in 2003, second team All ACC in 2003, first team Parade All American in 2002, McDonald's All American in 2002. He was Texas Mr. Basketball in 2002. He also won the FIBA World Championship. He won the bronze in the FIBA World Championship in 2006 in Japan, and the FIBA America's U18 Championship. He won the bronze in 2002 in Isla Margarita. So he's more than deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. He hasn't played actually since March of 2016, which is actually the same year that Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan retired, but he didn't actually declare his retirement until 2019. So, he's now finally being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I think he's worthy of it. So, tell me what you guys think.